Hasn't really been able to see too much defenses, but in theory, this is actually a really great character. I do like. Hey, thanks so much for checking out the video. Today, we're going to be doing the top 10 heroes to limit break in purple. These are the absolute best heroes to limit break, all the way from C range and all the way to A+, so you're going to know exactly which ones to limit break. Also, I have done the red and blue version, so if you haven't seen that, please make sure you click on those. Those are right there on the screen. And make sure you subscribe and turn notifications on, because I'm going to be releasing the green as well as the yellow versions too. So diving right into this list, we're going to start off with Salmon Loki. This is C. Actually, we should probably change it to Z because he's absolutely terrible. They tried doing a buff on him and he's still just really bad. Next up on the list is going to be Mach R, another character that's pretty bad. If you have any other character besides purple on your team, not really recommended unless you build a team specific to him. Next up on this, forget everything you think you know about mobile games, because one of the most ambitious shooter projects of 2021 is here, and it's going to change everything. Introducing Mech Arena. Playing mech is the most immersive experience you'll find on a smartphone, and it can only be compared to the biggest PC and console titles. And the best part, it's totally free. I love battling in the tournaments that they run weekly. You face more challenging opponents, and everyone is fighting in the top prize at the end of the week. I build my mechs differently every time depending on the map, but lately I've been bringing my newest favorite mech, Cheetah. This little critter just got an update last month, and let me tell you, he is a one-man wrecking crew. I'm slinging missile racks to their face or throwing mines at unsuspecting enemies that don't go away even after you die. I love setting traps in the control points to give you extra protection. This month they released 2 brand new maps. Race around and battle your way through Control Point. 2 different maps that are focused on less control points, which means more centralized fighting and oil shed. This is great news, knowing that they are listening to the community to add a bit more diversity into the game modes. And they just launched the brand new Battle Pass, which allows you to grow your mechs even faster and put on some fancy new skins. This thing is definitely worth the small price that you pay for it. So what are you waiting for? Jump into the battlefield, check out Mech Arena. It's completely free to play and available on Android or iOS. All you gotta do is click on the link in the description or scan my nifty QR code. By doing that, you get a bunch of free loot to get you started. You get 1 Steel Reaper skin, 500 A coins, 70,000 credits, and make sure to add me as a friend so we can play matches together. My friend code is 9494162. Thanks again, Mech Arena. I'll see you in game. Next up on this list is Mid-Zero, a character that they probably should have buffed and made a bit better. I don't know why it's still bad. The summoning rates to get him are very, very low, and it's still just a bad character. Next up in the C's is going to be Quintus, just a character. They've just released a whole bunch of other heroes that are just way better than him. Quintus tries to get buffs every once in a while, but is still pretty bad. Next up on the list are the B- heroes. These are heroes that they're a little bit below average in terms of limit breaking. First up is going to be Boss Wolf. He's running it very slow, and unfortunately all of his abilities don't really impact the board to really justify that very slow rate. Next up is going to be Victor, running in at B-, a character running it very fast. He did get a buff, and his other costume version is a little bit later on in the list, but this one just doesn't really do too much that you really like or really need at very fast. Next up on the list is going to be Domnicia. She got another buff. She's dealing a decent amount of damage and does help out against Holy, but other than that, not a character I really want to be doing at average speed hitting a single target. Next up is going to be Zulag, a character that is pretty one-dimensional, just sitting in the tank position, but an overall not even the best tank to be using in purple, so I'm not really that stoked on using Zulag. Next up is going to be Chaka. This character was just released, running at slow speed. It does help out if there is mana issues going on with your team, but besides that, again, another character very one-dimensional. Not too stoked on it. Next up is going to be our B heroes. These are characters that are about average. They're not over the moon, but still pretty solid. You got Sargasso. This guy has gotten quite a few buffs. He is pretty decent, but overall, I'm not that stoked on him. Next up is going to be Domnicia costume. Again, a situation to where hitting a single target, dealing a large amount of damage, does help out with the giving the poison damage, and then the spelling is okay. Next up is going to be Obacon. This is probably my favorite character that I can't ever justify maxing. I love the design, but unfortunately not that great. Next up in our Bs is going to be Aaron, a character that I think could definitely use a buff considering everything else that has come out. I think that they should probably work on Aaron just to make him a little bit better, especially as a healer in purple. Next up on the list is going to be Kiana. Kiana got a little bit of a decrease because they just changed how raid formations work on defense, but still a pretty solid character. I do like that she is a rogue. She could have been exploited in the past, but not so much anymore. That's why she's sitting at B. Next up on this list is going to be Marieth Reese in the B versions. Running at slow speed, that's the biggest deterrent on her. I do like that she does create the zombies, but ultimately not a character that's first on my list to limit break. Next up on the list is going to be Grimble, another B. Obviously really amazing against minions, but besides that, I'm not too stoked. What I will say though is the 235 damage to all enemies is definitely relevant. He could either be absolutely amazing or still pretty solid, and that's why he is at the end of my Bs, close to the B plus range there. Next up is going to be the B pluses. Thought the Moon got a huge upgrade and now deals damage to the target and nearby enemies, and also puts a minion on yourself and the nearby allies. So that's really sweet. I do like Thought the Moon. He's sitting at B plus there. Next up on the list is going to be Kaged Burrito. Kaged Burrito, one of my personal favorites. As you guys know, dude is literally tattooed on my leg, but unfortunately he slipped quite a bit. If you haven't seen that video, actually go ahead and you can click on that where I actually get tattooed Kaged Burrito. It's kind of an interesting video. But dealing damage, unfortunately, he's kind of contingent on them having the low damage, and that kind of goes against him. Next up on the list is going to be Kaged Burrito costume. Now, the important thing with the costume is that it does dispel the target first. So that is absolutely relevant, and then potentially sets it up so they get the defense. This might go into an A minus. I was definitely debating it and I switched it last minute. I don't know if it's a B plus or an A minus. Let me know in the costume, or let me know in the costume. Let me know in the comments about the costume version. Next up on the list is going to be Quintus costume, dealing damage to all enemies as well as giving the attack power decrease down. Next up on the list is going to be Obacon costume. I do love this character dealing damage at fast speed, as well as setting up for himself and the nearby allies to counterattack. Next up in the B plus is going to be Dark Lord. He just got a little bit of a buff, might go in a little bit into the A minus range, but still deals a ton of damage at fast speed, but only hitting one target. Little bit of an issue there. Next up on the list is going to be Karnov. Absolute amazing on Titans, but besides that, probably not my first pick on limit breaking. Next up on the list in the B plus is going to be Maligna. Obviously, we have the issue to where she could potentially be absolutely amazing, and then other times not that great. Next up on the list is going to be Kunchen in the B pluses. We're very close to bringing this guy up. I was very debating it, but being able to set it up so it's recovering health and also giving the defensive down does help out quite a bit. Next up on the B plus is going to be Sartana. This character was always really great in the past, but we've just released way too many heroes that are just infinitely better. So getting into our A minuses, we're starting this list off with Hell, one of my very first favorite characters ever, being able to deal damage and then also make it so they can't gain mana for 3 turns. Really great character. Next up on the list for limit breaking is going to be Guardian Panther. Obviously absolutely amazing on Titans, but probably not the best pick on defense, but still a very solid character overall. Next up on the A minus is going to be Victor costume. Obviously got a huge bump up from his previous version, being able to give the defensive down for 3 turns, target nearby enemies at very fast. Yeah, very solid. I do like Victor quite a bit. Next up on the list is going to be Clarissa. Obviously, this is the purple version of Gravemaker. Hasn't really been able to see too much defenses, but in theory, this is actually a really great character. I do like Clarissa. I would say underrated for sure. Next up on the list is going to be Sartana costume in the A minuses. Just deals a savage amount of damage at 532%. Next up on the list is going to be Lapesha. Obviously, she's absolutely amazing on offense, struggles a bit on Titans, and then with defense, there is a little bit of a liability, but still an overall amazing character. Next up on the list in the A minus is going to be Sinan, a character that we're still kind of figuring out with these Slayers if they're going to be that great. Unfortunately, with the slow ability, it does go against him a little bit. Haven't found him to be too much of a factor, but he does have absolutely amazing stats. Next up on the list is going to be Agrafina. She's just really great, and we're going to see the potential of this character. Definitely considered maybe bring her into A. The problem is that her first mana charge is so underwhelming, but the second mana charge is just absolutely devastating. I do love that a lot. Next up on the list is going to be Quartz. Quartz is just a great character to have, but I think he struggles a little bit. So we are going to go into the 3 stars for the A range. So these are going to be the 3 stars, as well as I'm going to go over the 4 stars and the A's and the A pluses. But if you are liking this and you've watched this far, I think it's worth it for you to go ahead and subscribe. So make sure you do that right now. Starting us off in the 3 stars, these are the 3-star A's, is Guardian Bat. I love this character. Average speed, dealing damage to the target and then minor damage, but then also increases the damage by 60% per each dead ally. So there's been times where Guardian Bat goes off and I'm just absolutely wrecked at the fact. So I do like Guardian Bat quite a bit. Next up on the list in the A's for the 3 stars is going to be Anwinder. This character is pretty interesting, being able to increase the attack and then also dealing damage, and then also setting it up so that the allies with the duration increases damage. I do like this in the 3 stars for sure. Next up on the list in the A's is going to be Chochin. Obviously dealing damage to target nearby enemies, but the biggest factor is going to be the mana generation for 3 turn is going to get decreased. Next up on our list are going to be the A plus 3 stars. I do love this first character here. This is Bjorn. If you have been hit by this guy, you magically take 200, and then the next one is taking 350%. And if you have a holy, he pretty much just nukes it. So he deals a ton of damage. Next up on this list is going to be Gilra, an absolute must on any of the rush tournaments in the 3 stars, giving the defensive down as well as the attack down, and then also dispelling all your guys. I do like Gilra as an A+. Next up is gonna be Maeve, a really great character that they have, dealing damage to target nearby enemies, and then also just giving a substantial amount of 44% defense for 3 turns, and being a rogue class. I love this 3-star here. Next up is going to be our 4-star A's. Starting this list off is going to be Amaterine. She just deals a ton of damage, especially as a 4-star. Very close to an A+, just a great character to just deal a ton of damage. Next up on the list is going to be Sabina costume in the A's. She's regenerating the health over the 3 turns, and then also setting up so the immunity that the enemies can't gain is really awesome. Can't gain any buffs, and then you're also dispelling any buffs, so pretty much a clean slate. I love Sabina costume. Next up is going to be Sergi, another new character, absolute essential on even the 14-star Titans against the Yellows. Being able to get a Miki ability as well as a Guardian Panther ability out of a 4-star. Really great character. Definitely helped out my Titans for sure. I love Sergi. Next up on the list in the A's is going to be Proteus, dealing damage to the target, but the biggest thing is going to be the mana block ability in the 4 stars for 3 enemies. Really awesome. Next up is going to be our A+ 4 stars. Starting us off is going to be Tiburtus, big old Tiburtus. I absolutely love this character, especially even in the beginning. I really love Tiburtus, dealing damage to target nearby enemies, but the 34% for 6 turns is absolutely savage. Next up is going to be Tiburtus costume, his homie costume, dealing damage to all enemies, and then all enemies are getting the defensive down for 4 turns. I use Tiburtus costume on pretty much every single 4-star tournament ever. Next up, probably not a big surprise, it's going to be Regard costume. As far as his ability, pretty much runs at a 5-star, runs better than a lot of the 5-star healers that they have in purple, being able to gain life over 3 turns, and then also increasing the attack, and then also dispelling all ailments. Yeah, Regard costume is an absolute savage. Definitely recommend limit breaking him. So now we're going to get into the A's and A pluses for the 5 stars. Again, please make sure you subscribe and let me know in the comment which one you are going to be limit breaking, and tell me if I made the right decision. I'll let you guys know in the comments which one I'm actually going to be limit breaking. So first up on this list is going to be Sezshat. Sezshat, just a character that deals a ton of damage in the A's. Just an absolute savage with her. And then the replicator minion, she's decreased just a little bit, but I absolutely love Seshat. The replicator minion gets really annoying, and then it's also setting up for the dispelling of the buffs. Next up on the list is going to be Seshat costume in the A's. Obviously, the big draw to be using the costume version is having the dispel ability go off first. So that is absolutely super important, and then dealing damage and setting up for the replicator minion. And it is a target nearby enemies as well too. Next up in the A's is going to be Jabberwock. We remember how much of a devastating this was to be getting hit on the edges and then doubling if only one enemy is alive. It's just a ton of damage, as well as the poison damage. Next up on the list is going to be Freya sitting at the A. Obviously, we know she's a very great tank that we have. I do like this character quite a bit. And then obviously the big draw is when she dies, she reduces the mana. A really great character. Next up on the list is going to be Alfreaky. Obviously, we know this character is absolutely broken in the rush tournaments, but overall, Alfreaky just slightly decreased on defense. You'd have to work with her quite a bit for her to really work that well on defense. So that does go against her, but she's just an absolute savage. I love Alfreaky. Next up on the list in the Ace is going to be Dr. Moreyo. Obviously, being able to blind the enemy, but what's really awesome about this character is it restarts the blind if they gain any life, and that happens quite a bit. I love Dr. Moreyo. Next up on the list is going to be Ursenia. She's dealing damage to all enemies. Obviously, if they have more life, deals a bunch more, and then any holy stuff is reflecting back. Next up on the list is going to be Hersenya, which is pretty much doing the same thing, but also giving them defensive down for purple. Yeah, so the costume version is absolutely amazing. Next up on the list are going to be the A pluses. These are probably the top picks in all of purple. And do me a favor, guys, if you reach this far, share this on your line group. Everybody is going to be asking the question, who should I limit break in purple? So rather than just them, asking this, send this online, post it on Facebook, send it to your friend, because we all know everybody's wondering, who should I limit break in purple? Just send them this video. These are the A pluses. First one starting off is going to be Killhair. This character probably has murdered you at least once. Your whole family feels like they're all alive and doing great things, and then Killhair says nope, murders everybody. Obviously, Killhair, absolutely devastating. Next up on the list is going to be Beara. Obviously, the premier tank that we have in purple situation, where she's setting herself up to make it so they lose their mana. And then the most important thing is her little minions. They are super annoying in terms of you gaining mana, in terms of you gaining minions yourself. We know Beara is just an absolute stud on the defense. Next up on the list is going to be Onyx. We know that being in the wings or the flanks, Onyx can just deal a bunch of damage. Obviously, the dodge is definitely impressive quite a bit, so I do love Onyx as well too. Next up on the list is going to be Hannah as an A+. We've definitely seen these more on defenses. The whole Hannah Elizabeth situation, getting the fiends is super annoying to deal with. She's running it fast, and she also starts off with a bunch of mana. Yeah, she's really great. Next up on this list is going to be Zefold. Obviously, this character just gains a ton of mana for all of your other guys. We're seeing just a bunch of videos to where a bunch of Zefolds go off and they literally never get a turn ever again. Yeah, this character is really stupid in terms of what it can do. Lots of shenanigans going on. I really want this character. And then the next one on this list is gonna be Ludwig. Ludwig, just an absolute savage. 6 turns to where you can't target anybody else, gets a whole bunch of defense, and then obviously it's just gaining the mana for the people surround. It's just, Ludwig is disgusting. So guys, let me know in the comments which one you think I should limit break, your thoughts, opinions. Make sure you share this. I really appreciate all the support. I'll see you on the next video.